Broadcasting live from the mixed up world of Hyrule, this is the Link to the Past Randomizer League 2020. Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Bobtastic, and joining me today on commentary is Eudaimonistic, and look we have Boots and GT.
Yeah, hallmark of the Ambrosia format. And hello, folks. So you're gonna get a Boots hit immediately. We'll also get a quick map check. We got crystals all over the light world. Well, Dr. Bobtastic, I'm real excited for this Ambrosia seed. This, of course, giving us a standard open sequence. We also have an assured sword, so no worries about what we have in the Uncle. We'll figure out what he's got anyway. But yeah, late in week 2.
If you're looking for a reason why our runners weren't using swords on those bushes, it's that your sword is just straight up disabled until you talk to your uncle.
Yeah, apparently we needed some kind of rousing speech in order to summon the courage, of that Triforce to actually, draw the sword, live up to the legend.
Yeah, now early bombs are a excellent thing to find as you head through Escape. Because you got to get those 3 chests in the back.
And then, of course, one other thing, this being standard mode, we will have a free light cone on our progression throughout this rain state escape sequence. So that's one other gimme that we have accessible to us. We will also we'll need to have a light source for the climb up to the mountain if we want to do that in logic, though.
Right. And to be fair, the light cone isn't just there during the rain state. It's there the whole time in the escape, at least. So if you get to where you've got, no glove and nothing else, but you did find some bombs, you can go back to the back of Escape that way. But we've got bombs here today, so that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, it's not that uncommon to see people really trying to push to get bomb drops in these early sections, so having those early, in fact there is one here on the screen guard, for both of our runners actually, both of them hitting the 50-50 on that. With some nice spin strats from both runners, Chirality getting a little bit of time over Qirn just for having spun him towards the center of the room. So as we make our way to the ball and chain guard, we'll see either 2 pots being thrown, 1 pot being thrown, or 8 slashes, or some combination of the 3 different techs. This is the first match of the week for Yoshi's on Skis versus Old Swagga Jackson. My team, Yoshi's on Skis, represented by Chirality and Qirn and Old Swagga Jackson.
So am I gonna have to provide a balancing voice here?
You're welcome to, but I plan on roasting these 2 equal opportunity as far as I'm concerned. Qirn, of course, being a commentary moderator in the main tournament, and Chirality, a long-standing member of the Rando community. You can find both of them racing pretty frequently, actually.
Alright, so both runners making pretty good time getting out of Escape area. Chirality farming up a few more bombs, I guess.
I was kind of surprised to see him go for the second.
Yeah, those green bombs are the green guards, and therefore the rest of the guards are in the bomb drop pool. I mean, there's only a couple of drops before you get to the 4 or 8, so if you really want to just fill up.
And it makes sense. You definitely want to have as many as you can possibly have going into the Kakariko sequence. Or if you wanted to go east towards Sahazura. And as you mentioned, that bomb prize pack, this is kind of a hallmark of version 31 where the prize packs are vanilla, they're just shuffled with different enemies. So finding those bombs, you would typically find those bombs, say, on bomb slugs or other enemies within that prize pack. Today it's green guards. So
yeah, I think maybe the Stalfos Knights also in that pool.
That sounds right.
Because I remember playing this vanilla, basically getting bombs every time I killed one with a bomb. You know what I mean?
Hence why you would see it in the NMG run, why you usually get bomb drop from those Stalfos Knights and Ice Palace. That makes a lot of sense. Well, this is the first match of the week for Yoshi's on Skis. They are currently 1-1. Old Spaghetti Jackson currently 2-0. Both teams looking to try and kind of climb back up into the top position of the Village of Outcast division.
And Qirn quickly locates that key rat and heads on out. See what is in the back here. There's our map and 20 rupees and bombs. So, you know, nothing really to write home about, but that is it's at least nice to know that you don't have to come back here later.
Yeah, knocking this out in one go, definitely a good feeling. And because we found that map there in that chest, that does mean that the Sanctuary chest will have something for us. Who knows if it's valuable or not. Wow, sub-6 escapes from both of these runners. A really good time leaving the castle sequence.
And I'm certainly not going to object to a Master Sword right out of escape.
Fantasy owners everywhere are shuddering at the quick accessibility of these swords. You kind of expect it a little bit with the Ambrosia week. But that does give us a nice weapon to work with, and if we end up finding, say, like a lamp or something, and a moon pearl, we could be heading to Aghanim, which has been a trend this week. We'll have to see the rest of the overworld, as there are quite a few item locations remaining.
Yeah, Agaseeds in Standard are slightly more common, especially when you have a assured sword.
You know, I gotta think that, you know, this Ambrosia week really giving me the impression that all of Hyrule takes place in my home state of Michigan, because, like, the storms only last for, like, 5-6 minutes. You want the weather to change, you just, you know, spend some time in the basement and climb out, and you're all of a sudden sunny again. That's a Moon Pearl and a Burna here in the forest.
What was that you were saying about Aga again?
It's becoming rapidly a thing. Now, once we have that Moon Pearl, I mean, we could have been... Once we had that Master Sword, we have the means to potentially go up there in the first place. A Moon Pearl makes it a little more appealing, though, because then you can do something in the dark world.
Yeah, with that Moon Pearl, if I found Lamp and, like, neither hammer nor glove in Kakariko, I would beeline it for Aga 1. No joke.
Well, speaking of Aga 1 on the mind, Qirn actually going to take the time to check the Lumberjack Ledge. We know the boots are in Ganon's Tower, so that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, it would have been pretty unlikely to have something there that was required. Like, it's just really rare that you can access GT and not be able to beat the game, especially when you already have 2 swords.
You know, there are other things that you could have been considering, though. Maybe a bow. If it was a progressive bow, you might be thinking differently about your logic throughout the rest of the seed. So, I mean, that information could be valuable still, but
yeah.
20 rupees, I'm not going to be too worried about it.
I mean, bow and GT can happen in some seeds, not this one.
Oh, I meant specifically a progressive bow on the Lumberjack Ledge. If we wanted to consider, you know, say, silvers in logic and how that might impact how we approach bow-lock dungeons later.
I guess technically you could have a bow in GT for this seed,
yeah,
because progressive bows are a thing.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, very unlikely, or at least it can't really happen in this particular seed that we would find a bow, because it's pretty much guaranteed we're going to need one.
Well, we've got a glove in the top of the well, along with bombos.
Glove plus bombos. We're starting to piece together some of the things we would need for an early Dark World access outside of Aghanim. That would be a way for us to get into
Ice
the right
Palace. That's all I'm saying.
We're just a glove away from
Ice
it.
Palace.
And flippers, I guess. But maybe we could fake flipper and do it if we really wanted to.
You also really want the hammer before you go into Ice Palace.
Oh yeah, big time. You know, I gotta say though, it's not too often that the bottle vendor gives us actually a cash flush response. Getting 300 rupees from him and then 300 in the escape. We're already on Zora money, less than 10 minutes in.
Yeah, and you know, I'm always wondering how he stays in business, but miracles happen.
You know, buying good bees, you know, giving us quips. You'd think that's not a great business model, but it works apparently. Bottle's a hot commodity here in Hyrule, and we already have one on the way to go to the Sick Kids, so we get a full completion here of Kakariko Village for everything we can do in the first run. All we got left in Kakariko at this point is just we could turn in a blacksmith later, and then we'll have magic powder that we'll need to use for the magic bat.
Whoa!
We're gonna find Fire Rod.
Interesting. So Fire Rod is, a fire source. It can be used for a lot of things, like in terms of lighting things up. There are some new places it can do in V31, but that gives you the question: do you want to try for the lampless Aga with that Fire Rod?
Yeah, good point to remember. Because of that change in version 31, it's actually kind of, more accessible than it would be otherwise. I don't know if you need it for every single room, but there are some torch rooms that you can use the Fire Rod for to make it a little bit more palatable.
Yeah, in Aga 1, Aga 1 is not ever going to be required without the lamp, because, there are some non-torch rooms in there. But there are some rooms, really, the hard rooms in there have torches you can light.
Yeah, and the reason I'm casting some doubt on my mind, and it sounds like chat's kind of correcting us that, you can't reach Aghanim in logic with Fire Rod, is because some rooms, the fire persists and you can kind of continue to see. So that's why it's so important to at least have some sort of light source.
The boots hint was literally as you open the ROM.
We also saw one more difference between the two of these runners. We saw a Qirn take a moment to check the library, which was a mushroom. As we said, it's a very fringe scenario where you really care about anything boots locked at this point, so this is information that he might calculate around the seed around. Otherwise, there wouldn't be much reason to check it. That being said, though, I think that knowledge could actually be important. I mean, if you know that certain fetch quests aren't on the table, like the mushroom, that might impact some late decisions.
Alright, additional bottles here in the dam. That's 2 bottles, both of which contain fairies. And Chirality has been religiously dumping the fairies.
Yeah, that's an interesting choice. Probably trying to preserve for potions later. Hard to imagine why else. Maybe just trying to ensure that if we don't find a bow, there's a Palace of Darkness option. So it might be kind of like planning for the Aghanim play. And there's that magic powder.
Yeah, luckily you wouldn't need to do fake powder, because you know where that mushroom is.
Well, if we do find the Cane of Samaria, we would have fake powder on the table. So, I mean,
there is that.
Maybe. Well, that's
don't need money,
cave.
Need fame. Don't need no magic if you use the cane. Anyway.
There you go. Alright, with Mini Moldorm Cave down, Chirality heading towards Ice Rod Cave, we're seeing the same thing from Qirn, presumably. Both of these two are very likely to do a fake flipper to Zora at some point. Whether or not Qirn chooses to do it immediately would actually give him a bit of a lead. He's got to watch out here for these crabs, though. 2 hearts of damage from these until you get the blue mail, which I think Qirn might have just picked up from the Mini Moldorm Cave.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, that's an
powder.
Awesome
so it's basically the safety cave over there.
The other nice thing about that too is that while Chirality's been dropping fairies, now has an option to restore them, which is really convenient. We're getting a really cool bomb setup for the fake flipper, taking advantage of the D boost to get 1 pixel away from the screen transition. Good niche knowledge from Chirality there, kind of set up an easy fake flipper.
Yeah, basically, if you get knocked back by a damage source like that, really any damage source, but bombs are the ones you have on you, then that will not knock you through a screen transition. So as long as you're not walking that direction, it'll line you up on the last possible frame, or last possible pixel, which is basically where you want to be.
Seeing some really interesting stuff from Qirn here. he was taking damage intentionally, and I'm not entirely sure why just yet. I thought for a second there he might have been considering a fairy revival fake flipper, which you wouldn't really need to do, but knowing Qirn, he may be the kind of show off to do that.
He does that for no reason, even when he wants to. That being said, he's got the whole... a lot of times, I actually like to fake flipper with low hearts, because the heart beep reminds me, don't get hit. For the love of all that is good and holy.
You know, that does make a lot of sense. I hadn't really considered it that way. Oh, no, he's gonna take a death here, so... Oh, you know what? This is, he had too much health. He was trying to set up something with that, I could tell. But he only took half a heart of damage from that bomb.
Oh, right, he's gonna do the revival thing for the ledge. That's what he's planning on doing. Because you can jump off the end. You can jump off the ledge with a fairy revival to make that happen. That was kind of the original way of doing it before people figured out the whole Ancilla splash deletion. Oh my god, it's a mirror.
That's gonna immediately pay off for Qirn. Oh my goodness, that's huge. Sorry to Kira later when you watch this back. I don't mean to sound so excited for our opponent, but whoa, that's just amazing. What the hook shot?
Speaking of excited, Zora's Domain is kind of party central today.
And for once worth the money for admission, so... Well, here's the thing, Qirn does still have to pull off the fairy revival. Being something of an expert at them, I think he's probably going to be in good shape. But with his stored... I don't think he stored a fake flipper, I think he just did the water walk.
Yeah. So now he's going to be swimming. Oh yeah, once you start swimming, I don't think you can do it.
Well, so he does have to...
you have to backtrack to the waterfall and get the water walk again. But he's going to go for it because the mirror is a big deal to have early.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because, I mean, like, you can't actually get to the ledge where you need to jump off the waterfall there. So, like, you do have to come all the way back here just to make sure you can walk up to that ledge. This is a lengthy time commitment for Qirn, so if there is a reasonable, convenient opportunity for Chirality to come back here later, say if we get the flute, then this might end up being kind of like a backfiring thing for Qirn. It depends on if that mirror blocks something really critical early on.
Alright, so Chirality went ahead, rescued the old man, gets 20 rupees from there, and will be headed up to Spectacle Rock Cave. We'll check that out, and then I imagine we'll be heading to East Death Mountain.
Yeah, so with that mirror knowledge, Chirality knows full well that this is not going to be, a route all the way up to Hera. But we'll get to see that bomb fairy revival setup here from Qirn. Is he able to drop a bomb from here? Okay, good.
He's got one more try.
Oh no! I don't mean to sound so excited.
I mean, it's unfortunate, and it was definitely worth a try. I like the gumption on it.
Yeah, big shout outs to Qirn. I mean, Qirn's done a lot of like tutorial videos on water traversals. I mean, this is definitely like stuff that's really up his alley, and the kind of the thing that he wanted to take advantage of in this race, I could tell. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome knowledge of the game to try and go for something like that.
Qirn's trying real hard to get a 50-50 bomb drop, and then he decides, you know what? Nah. Well, we have our red cane of Samaria.
Well, so Bob, that's gotta be fake powder, right?
Yeah. I'm told it is required to be fake powder.
But that's gotta be.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel.
Paradox Cave? Are you okay, Paradox Cave?
Oh.
So, we had a third sword, a ice rod, and a flute in Paradox Cave.
Toots, flutes, swords, and 300s.
And, of course, the single arrow, for those of us who are fans of that. Now, that does make one thing true, though, that the lamp is your logical way to access Death Mountain. Wait, Qirn's going for it again. Like, he's not messing around.
The thing with this is like, once you've taken the time to go for it the first time, like, I don't fault him at all for trying to double down on this. I mean, while it would feel really painful to walk away from it, I think once you've spent the time on this, you really do need it to work this way. But Qirn may be thinking twice about it. I am somewhat bewildered at this. Oh, he needs the damage.
He just needs to take a bunch of damage.
Well, that's really bad news for Qirn, because this is going to deplete almost... Well, he's going to have one bomb to do this with.
Looks like he'll have 2.
Yeah, maybe 2.
Which is what he had last time. And apparently getting damaged inside causes you to lose that fake flipper state. And yeah.
Just gonna say it now, this game is totally a functional game that never has any weird exploits that are hard to keep track of. But that's really tough, because I mean, like, there's every possible conspiring factor against Qirn with that bomb jump, and that bomb jump would have been, like, the fairy revival would have been absolutely sublime. Awesome way to get up to Hera first. So we'll see if this ends up being a huge punishment for Qirn in the long run.
Now, interestingly enough, Chirality just found the Book of Mudora inside Sahasrah's closet, which means that Desert will be completable. I would say completable if you find, pending the boots, but it's not going to require the boots. Because the boots are in GT, Desert is a crystal, can't be boots locked.
Yeah, this is easily one of the best strengths of Ambrosia as a format, because you know for a fact there's an item on the boss for one, but more importantly, if your boots are in GT, none of the crystals require them to complete. So we may find something that we want on that torch, or it could just be like one of the keys that we need, but there's a lamp in Eastern Palace. Things kind of turned out pretty well for Chirality so far.
There's that logical Death Mountain access. Chirality gonna get to use the hook shot to get to this far room. Very, very nice little trick here.
I was gonna say, besides the boots, this is about as efficient as it gets for Eastern Palace.
Good lord!
Good lord, a gold sword. Chirality, get the heck out of there.
Yep. I weep for everybody who has Chirality and Qirn on their team this week, but too bad.
Hey, I've got him on my team this week. I'm smiling.
Not the actual, not the league team. I'm talking about the fantasy team. Anyway.
Well, those of you watching out from Middle Earth, considering the fantasy results of these things, it's a bad pun. But Chirality actually left the dungeon immediately after, and that's another hallmark of Ambrosia. We know there's an item on Armos, and without the bow to finish it, no reason to still be in there.
Yeah. And the fact that, leaving from there costs you virtually no time if you have to come back in anyway. And the the big key, we haven't found that yet either, but you'll have to go find it anyway.
Yeah, still some possibility that we'll have to do the full loop when we come back. But at the very least, yeah, as you mentioned, that's like the least punishing place to leave from. So, all in all, this is like a, 2, maybe 3 minute lead for Chirality for overworld exploration?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if Qirn had gotten that mirror check, I think Qirn would have a pretty distinct, maybe not an actual advantage, but at least a possible advantage because Qirn would have been able to actually finish Hera and other things while he's up here.
Yeah, it would be a full completion of the Light World Death Mountain, which would be a hefty advantage in my opinion. If you can at least figure out what's Hera, and take care of a crystal, he'd probably be the first on the board with crystal at least. Well, still some opportunity for divergence. All of the items that we have kind of give us a few places we could be at. I mean, it's pretty clear that we want to go to desert at the moment, but Aghanim's still a possibility now that we have that lamp.
Right.
Goodness gracious, 3 bottles too.
I think you could conclude definitely that since the big key was in the map chest, and the dungeon is not logically boots locked, the small key had to be in the big chest. Desert.
Yeah, that's a part of this Ambrosia format that has really been testing runners throughout the week. I mean, I've had a chance to watch a lot of these races, and it seems like the biggest difference between a lot of runners is whether or not they read the format for each individual dungeon. As you mentioned, if you can infer where a key must be, you might not even check 2 or 3 things in a dungeon, just from those inferences alone.
Alright, Qirn also activating the flute. So we'll also have access to that fast travel, and that's probably the fastest travel they're going to get until they get to GT.
Yeah, it remains to be seen whether or not, we even end up picking up the boots. It could be actually a big key on the torch, which would be pretty funny.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. I was just thinking that. Big key on torch, and then you got to go find the boots instead.
Yeah, so, I mean, for those of you out there who do keep track of those imaginary points for those fantasy leagues, very likely of extremely low bonk count for these two today.
Alright, Chirality heading to the boss, Land Molas of Desert.
Qirn's gonna go for part 3 over here.
Round 3, Qirn versus Mirror.
Now, here's the thing. If it ends up being something critical in Tower of Hera, this is massive. I mean, it could be very long before Chirality gets flippers, for example, or even really tries to come back here. We know you can't do the stored water walk setup without those boots, at least the convenient way. So he has really no reason to be coming back for a long time. This could end up paying out big for Qirn if this ends up blocking something important.
Yeah, I think best scenario for Qirn would be the mirror blocks the hammer.
Oh, man.
Now, of course, the flippers technically block the mirror logically, so we'd have to be able to find those eventually.
Of course, after this Land Molas fight, flippers may be on Chirality's mind, as there are quite a few locations that would be logically blocked by them. Ice Palace we can access, but Swamp Palace would also be something to consider. So Qirn may be hedging his bets against the long term. We'll see if he can pull off this Fairy Revival here. This setup looks pretty good this time.
Okay. Qirn has managed to die in the water.
Good enough to pull it off.
And the mirror is his.
Alright, so I think the common expectation here is you immediately go up to the top of the Tower of Hera.
Seems legit. Looks like Chirality's probably headed for Aga 1.
This is interesting. If Qirn does find something like the hammer up here, or maybe like the Titan's mitts, this would be a way for him to subvert the whole Aghanim requirement. And if that ends up being the case, that's good 4 or 5 minutes that he would be earning back. So that's got to be on Qirn's mind right now. That must be the reason that he went for a 3rd attempt. I guess we'll see if that ends up paying off. I mean, with how few item locations we have, and the reason you're seeing Chirality do this now, it actually doesn't seem that unlikely in the grand scheme of things. It seems to me like we're more likely to find, flippers in Palace of Darkness, or on the pyramid ledge than we are to, you know, not find one of the two things we're looking for here.
Alright, so Chirality heading once again through Aghanim's tower. There are 2 chests in here, but they are guaranteed small keys, so you're not going to see any progression in here. Big key for Qirn.
I'm not going to opt for any kind of bootsless Harapot setup. No judgment on that. That's not exactly fun to do anyway. And we'll have an opportunity to clear out everything remaining.
Chirality playing us the song of his people.
You know, I'm here for that. You know, things going downhill for the Yoshis, making sure that, you know, everybody down the mountain can hear. I have to imagine somewhere in the background of his home is going.
Ooh, and Qirn having a little trouble with some bomb jump here. Ending up getting double dropped.
I would say that his fairy revival with that bomb was considerably more impressive than any bomb jump we'd see here. Maybe a little easier in execution, but I don't know. Fairy revival is kind of hard to pull off in the moment without your nerves kind of interfering. 32 minutes into this race, the Aghanim 1 fight for Chirality here. 5 attack cycle, first one always a guaranteed reflectable shot. 2, 3, and 4, 50-50 chance, a coin flip if you will, being that or a blue ball attack. And attack 5 is lightning we can do nothing with, but Chirality doesn't want us to just listen to the plain old boss BGM. We're gonna play our song of people again.
Alright, so the big chest does have the item that's not on Moldorm. Just a piece of heart.
Ooh, this is a scary position for Qirn right now. Half a heart to work with here for the Moldorm fight. Has to be very careful.
He did drop the pegs there so he can pick up some more hearts way up.
I'm really glad to see that. That's a scary thing. Like, anytime you walk into the Moldorm fight, you kind of have to expect that you might take some damage.
A slash and a spin, and that'll do it for Moldorm. Alright, and we even up the crystal count at 1 apiece.
Now, Qirn didn't find really any actual items in the tower yet, but, you know, does still have the small key in the basement, so we'll not be going to grab that. It's locked behind itself.
Yeah, we found the piece of heart in the big chest, and then there was Moldorm with the last item, so it was just 2 there. And Qirn is now headed to Athena's cave, which is a little unfortunate because we know where the book is. He's going to have to come back over here.
Well, so this is kind of bad news for Qirn, because not being able to avoid the Aghanim fight. I mean, we didn't see Athena's cave, I don't think, from Chirality before. Or maybe we did, but not being able to avoid it kind of makes the time sink more painful, as Chirality did have a lot of blue ball attacks from Aghanim. And that's our Ether Medallion.
It does look like Chirality didn't pick up that particular medallion, so that is a little bit orphaned if we find out that we end up needing that Ether Medallion.
Well, we received the briefest of map checks from Chirality. Going to spurn the catfish. Maybe Qirn will not spurn it. Having the mirror doesn't really help him in that situation, so it's an isolated check for both of these two when Qirn does get to that point. Now, I think the one thing that's working well for Qirn here is that, you know, when we do get to the Dark World, a lot of things will be more efficient. It kind of matters where we'll end up finding that hammer, but this will give him Graveyard Ledge. We won't have boots for King's Tomb, period. But, you know, a couple of things are done a little more efficiently with that mirror.
All right, Qirn also acquiring the book. Let's see where that leads him. He decides to head into Eastern. It looks like he may peace out on Eastern, which is a little bit unfortunate due to lack of lamp. He may end up going AGA 1 lampless, or just going back to Eastern. Either way, it's kind of unfortunate.
I do think at this point he's likely to head back to Eastern after Desert. I mean, not having the lamp doesn't hurt you here. So that might be Qirn's rationale, as you will have Fire Rod to work with, so Qirn can easily finish the dungeon, no problems. His mirror will make this dungeon a little faster, too, actually. Well, no, he's coming from the main entrance. This won't actually speed him up.
Alright, Chirality into Skull Woods, heading directly to the boss because we know there's an item there.
And only 2 items total in the dungeon, so there's a decent enough chance that both of them are here anyway. A pretty standard Skull Wood so far. Chirality using a fair amount of magic as expected and only taking 1 heart of damage. With Gold Sword, this isn't that bad of a fight, but 5 hearts to work with could be kind of scary.
That heart of damage was on purpose, I'm almost certain, because he was trying to kill that Gibdo and he kept getting sword beams, and it was not working.
And sword beams can be a hindrance in this fight as well. Jeez, Chirality, watch yourself.
Alright, Moth is down. Just bombs on Moth.
And in the meantime, Qirn has a day with Lamolus 2. Or, no, sorry, Lamolus 2. The 3 of them, Lamolus 1. With a Fire Rod, a lot of magic, and a Tempered Sword, this is a pretty comfy fight overall.
I'm not gonna lie, when I talked about Lamolus the first time, I was about to say Lamolus 2. And I think the reason for that is because Desert's like the second dungeon, so the number 2 was in my head somehow. You know.
Oh, I thought you meant you were also saying Lamolus, not Lamolus 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alrighty, a spectacular fireworks show from Qirn here. Some weirdness with the lag kind of interfered with getting a fast 1 cycle. But in the meantime, we'll see Chirality do a Death Warp to leave the back half of Skull Woods. Still 1 more item remaining. And that is 2 crystals on the board for both runners, Skull Woods and Tower of Hera being the difference between the 2 of them. Chirality has the opportunity to full clear, might be forced to full clear Skull Woods before finding the second item.
Yep, did get to make use of the Cane of Samaria here in probably one of the worst rooms in the game.
Yeah, definitely a nice time whenever you can use that for the switch instead. I am a little surprised to see Qirn coming back through here. I'm guessing that there was another item that I didn't see on Chirality's side, but the good news is that mirror actually will end up saving some time in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, there's a 20 rupees in the vanilla big key chest over here, if I recall correctly, for Qirn. That's it. Half magic for Chirality. That is the second item in Skull Woods, and Chirality is going to piece right out.
You hate to see it right after the fight.
Yeah, that is kind of the best time to find half magic, and by that I mean nope.
Either way, an awesome find for anybody running this game. Half Magic does afford us a little bit more flexibility with most strats. Not necessary for a lot of folks, when they have this kind of equipment to work with, but it does mean that there's less magic pickups you're worried about. You're probably not as worried about buying blue potions compared to red. So if we didn't have a lot of rupees, that'd be another thing.
Alright, so Qirn now finally heading to Eastern. Qirn, if keeps track of items, should be able to stop right after the second chest.
I think I would have found Qirn's decision to leave here earlier a lot more questionable if he didn't have the flute to work with. So there's that lamp.
Right.
We'll end up finding the gold sword. There's our bow in Thieves Town.
Alright, archery acquired. And we're ready to clear out some more of Thieves Town here. Now, one of the things about Thieves Town is there is a chest in here that requires the hammer, and a lot of people, depending on what they find, might actually just peace out if they don't find it after like the first 4 if they don't find the hammer.
Yeah, that's a common thing that you see a lot of runners differ on. Many people do make that choice. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We can definitely get the crystals, so I think that does give more reason for these two to probably complete the dungeon either way. But the fear of that hammer, we see a lot of people clear out all of Village of Outcasts just to avoid that scenario.
Yeah, and since there's a grand total of 3 items in the back, it's probably a good idea to head back there.
Yeah, so we'll end up finding out, in the long run, whether or not it ends up being, something to come back to bite us. We do know an item's on blind, so we may be able to exclude this location anyway, depending on, how many items we find in the process of getting there. This is an interesting play from Qirn here. This is exclusively a tablet check. I think Qirn feels very behind from earlier.
Not gonna lie, the hammer being here wouldn't be uncharacteristic for V31.
Let alone Ambrosia. In a small way, I'm almost kind of hoping for it, even though Chirality's on my team.
Nope, just a 50 rupees. And Qirn is gonna flute away and take the sad, sad trek up Aghanim's Tower.
Yeah, that tablet good enough to buy a candy bar or two, maybe, but Qirn's certainly not feeling too sweet after that chain of progress, so we'll have a lengthy time sink for Aghanim here, with quite a few blue balls in the fight as well, so Chirality already on the west side of the Dark World, with nearly 2 dungeons done from it, has quite the advantage to work with for the rest of the sea. And will end up being an issue, though, if that mirror ends up being something critical sooner than later, and that's not entirely off the table yet.
Alright, so Chirality found a red boomerang in the attic chest. Now, one of the things about the key logic for this is, so the small key, in terms of these 4 chests in the back, can only be in 2 locations. It can be in the big chest, in which case you do not have to open the big chest, or it can be in this upcoming chest right here.
Which would mean...
Okay! Thanks, game!
Kerpow, smashing the logical chain here. Chirality doesn't have any reason to go check that chest now, but certainly will be heading to the fight. That's an awesome boon for Chirality here. That's going to make everything in the Dark World a lot more friendly, and more importantly, give him access all the way over to Palace of Darkness.
I'm told that desert humor is often dry.
It just gets everywhere.
Chirality was making use of sword beams there to get some damage on blind there. Pretty good.
I'm a big fan of that. Butter Sword, kind of an awkward setup because it is the largest sword that you can work with, so it does kind of mess up with your lineup sometimes. If you have the sword beams available to you, the clutch thing and the key thing to remember for the blind fight is if things don't go perfectly on script, you definitely just don't want him to cross the room. So that'll be good enough for a crystal for Chirality. I'm sure Qirn will have no trouble with that fight, though. That's a pretty automatic fight for these two. Alright, well, Chirality will be walking past some mirror locations here, and we will not see them for quite a while. It might be, like, after Palace of Darkness that he considers going to get that mirror. And I guess we won't be able to do the head cave either, as we do not have our Titan's Mitts yet.
Yeah, we will definitely need the Titan's Mitts. Wow, am I reading those pendants right?
You know, I think you are. Ice Palace, Misery Mire, and Turtle Rock. Very interesting configuration. Are those all the things that we might... Could we potentially not need Titan's Mitts?
Well, you still need them to get to GT.
Goodness gracious, GT access.
No way to get them without GT. Yeah. I'm thinking for hilarity's sake, it'll be Spike Cave. And like you can clear everything else in the world, but except for the dungeons that require the mids and Spike, and then it'll be Spike Cave. Anyway. But what that does mean is that our mirror there is definitely required because of Swamp Palace. So eventually we will find those flippers, and that will grant us access to Swamp as well.
Yeah, so we're still unfurling all of the different progressional sails, so to speak. Trying to catch wind here for Qirn, and Chirality pretty much downwind at this point, or downhill, skiing his way to, the go mode in progress, because it's not that far away. We are pretty much uncovered most of what we're going to need here.
Meanwhile, the Seed pretty much breaking wind all over these runners.
Yeah, it certainly feels like a lot of turbulence already. And then Silver Arrows here in the Hype Cave for Chirality. This route's kind of paying off very well.
Yeah, so Butter Sword and Silvers, and only 47 minutes into the Seed, so thanks for that.
Silver's not super crazy important. Chirality is actually not going to bother going to Palace of Darkness yet. This might be the time where he chooses to go get that mirror. Does not have the logical means of doing so may end up doing some kind of fairy... Well, can't do a fairy revival. No, I don't think he's going for mirror right now.
Well, you could do the splash deletion.
That's a good point. And then, yeah, it looks like he's going to do that instead. So yeah, he has all the components to spawn enough Ancilla on screen to trick the game into thinking, wait a second, you never splash in the water, therefore you can swim. Game's totally not broken.
What's funny is it's the actual code that runs the splash animation that actually pulls you out of the water. And so the fact that the splash animation is never allowed to spawn is what allows you to never get thrown out.
I think we're starting to see some nerves here from Qirn. We saw him try to preserve a portal for King's Tomb, forgetting, hey, we don't have boots. We're not going to have them. I gotta think, this has been one of those seeds where no matter where your opponent is, the things that have happened just feel awful.
Yeah, Chirality's actually got a couple of different ways he could use to do the splash delete here.
Looking like we're gonna see bow plus bombs, I think. Maybe even lantern? The tricky part about this is just the nature of the bow and arrow themselves. The arrows, you can only have so many on screen at a time, and so trying to get this to set up, you see how the arrow's just barely leaving chirality on that third one. That's what you want. You want to have that third arrow just barely spawn before you do it.
Alright, so there's what you want. You want to go close to the wall and then do the bomb thing. The fact that he's far enough from the wall is what's making this difficult. You gotta go close to the wall so that the time it took to spawn all 3 arrows isn't very long. Then you drop... Then as you're walking to do the thing, you drop the other 2 bombs and then you jump down. Samaria... I think you require more than just a Samaria block. I think you require... I mean, you could do, like, some arrows in a Samaria block or a bunch of other shenanigans. Samaria and 2 bombs. I've seen, like, Samaria and the red boomerang, which you could also do.
Yeah, because, I mean, the point is, you just need as many until on screen as possible, to the point where the game no longer has spots to put the splash. But so, for those of you tuning in late to the race, big story so far is that the mirror on Zora Ledge seriously hindering both of these runners. Oh, goodness, Chirality, watch yourself. Kira did actually attempt to go grab it just now with a splash to lead and failed to do so. Qirn made about 3 attempts at it early in the race during the initial fake flipper to Zora play. And then from there, it was an Aghanim required seed to get to the Dark World. We've seen a couple dungeons and a couple of items beyond that, but otherwise, these two have most of the same equips.
Alright. Once again, Chirality making his way toward Palace of Darkness. Maybe this time we will not let the pterodactyl follow us. Oh, nope. Still doing the thing.
I'm a little... Okay, hammering it instead of slashing that. Chirality may be showing off a little bit.
Fair enough.
Well, you mentioned those sword beams in Skull Woods. Qirn having to do a little bit of a dance with the Gibdo, but will preserve that health. I wonder if that's going to impact him in the fight, because those sword beams can be quite a chore to deal with. I mean, you could just get right up in his face and get the slash to connect directly.
Yeah, it's hard to get hit by, beams of, circular beams if the circular beams never fire.
Well, I would say that was a faster fight overall from Qirn. Pretty good fights for both of them altogether, but definitely less damage, less chaos. That's what Qirn needed here. As the mirror is still eluding Chirality thanks to the splash lead failing, and Qirn getting his on his 3rd fairy revival attempt still represents a potential advantage for him. At this point, we just need to figure out where those gosh darn flippers are. That's really the main component of our logic that we don't have figured out yet. But if we can find those flippers here in, say, Palace of Darkness, Chirality's got no mode and then shortly thereafter go mode for virtually everything remaining. And we would expect that Qirn is probably going to be pretty much in the same shoes by that point. We'll get a pedestal check from him, though. Oh, that's right. We do still need the Titansmiths. We just discussed this. But we don't need them for any required dungeons. We would just need it for Ganon's Tower at this point.
Alright. So Chirality has found 4 small keys in the left side chest of the front. So these other 2 on the right, Chirality's not going to the right. Okay. Sure. Okay. Oh, he needs a bomb. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, when you don't have a mirror, it can be actually a lot more annoying to farm bombs in Palace of Darkness. You get the 2 here in the main lobby, and then, of course, you'll have 2 at the Hammer Yump Bridge, as we like to call it, the collapsing one in the back. But other than that, I mean, not a ton to work with otherwise. So usually
there's actually
you
a
leave
total
this
of
place
4 there, I believe. There's 2 at either end.
Oh, right. Good point.
Yeah, there's also 2 up here at the end of this right side area. There's 2 under pots before you knock down the hammer blocks.
Yeah, so it can be easy to forget about those locations, but otherwise, there are options. You know, having the mirror allows you to farm them much easier, because that lobby is the most accessible fast one, but it sounds like we'll have a few as we leave this dungeon. Yeah, it looks like Chirality did remember, so we'll be able to open up this door and we'll have all the bombs total needed.
Well then.
Alrighty, well, Chirality knows that there's an item on Helmasaur King and can go there immediately, but we'll make sure to clear out the rest of the dungeon first.
Was that a 6 small key front?
Judging by the keys used, I believe so. Oh, that was an interesting drop down there. I thought for a second he was trying to get back over beyond the peg.
Yeah, 6 small key front is not something you see terribly often.
Extremely rare.
That means just all the fun stuff in the back. The mullet moniker has never been more deserved.
You know, Chirality trying to shave down the remaining item locations, you know, having found very little in the front, having, you know, a little bit of a fiesta, if you will, here in the back. With flippers.
There's flippers.
A pool party in the back. Well, that's huge for Chirality. That represents no mode outside of Titan's Mitts. That's really the only thing that we're not aware of yet. Now, the good news for Qirn is that this, you know, logical progression that's going to send him towards Palace of Darkness will be getting everything he needs. It's very unlikely that he's going to be, say, you know, sent into Swamp Palace early. You know, now that we know where those flippers are, he's got to come back that way. These are good things for his overall routing. Whether or not the mirror has something on K45 or maybe on the Bombos tablet, those are things that could potentially be huge swings for Qirn here.
Yeah, the Titan's mitts are, you know, they do like to be in pretty awful locations.
Seeing some questions in chat about some newer tech that's been ruled on by the Racing Council. There's one that you could have done here in Palace of Darkness called a long stair extension. The gist of it being that your walking up the stairs animation can carry you past the peg blocks. Very small time save, but it's now legal in Randomizer. Would be very... Actually, I think it goes into effect tomorrow.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, we don't have the equipment to do that anyway.
I mean, I've heard about it existing, and I remember learning about it as part of the festive seeds that were around for the, I think, the Christmas one, where there was a puzzle, and it required that to solve it, and I never got it because I don't understand it.
It's part 67 in a long-standing series of how the Cane of Samaria is a broken item, and I don't know how in the world they got it to program it to work correctly.
I mean, let's be fair, the Cane of Samaria can be used to do actual arbitrary code execution in this game, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, here's another Ambrosia boss down for Chirality. $20 for Helmasaur King's corpse, and a crystal. So that puts Chirality to 4. To Qirn's 3, who will likely be, you know, catching up to that count here pretty quickly. This is the back half of Beast Town. I'm a little concerned for Qirn here with 2 hearts to work with, but there are some powder opportunities coming up.
Alright, so the Titan's mitts are the one item really that stands between us and Go mode. And we can pretty much guess some of the locations they can be in. My guess would be somewhere like Swamp Palace. I normally don't think there's going to be much in Swamp, but the Titan's Myths are an exception.
You know, I mean, it's interesting that you bring that up because Kira here on the left has decided to go back to that mirror now, and maybe that's been, you know, on his mind. Hey, Swamp 6 potential items. We'll also get a blind fight here from Qirn with 2 hearts to work with. This is actually a little bit scary. I mean, even with blue mail, you can't really afford to be face checking any of these heads if things go south. So that really reflects his confidence in this fight.
He does have emergency Brian strats if necessary, and I think he still has a fairy.
Yes, because he only used 1 for the fairy revival. So Qirn with a fortunate bailout here. We'll be able to finish this up in 1 more slash. Very nicely done. That's a mirror for Chirality, so just those Titan's Myths and lots of Hyrule at our disposal. I have to wonder how much Chirality is going to be thinking about the mirror locations, because, I mean, you got to think he knows that Qirn is absolutely going to get that mirror early. Like, that's basically Qirn's trademark.
Alright, so let's talk random hypothetical strategy. You ready?
Go for it. Lay it on me.
You get into go mode, you go into Ganon's tower, you go into Stalfo's room with like 2 keys, and you find the big key in the first chest. Do you open the other 3 hoping for the boots?
I open the other 3 in that room. I don't even touch anything else beyond that unless it's at the top of the tower, though.
I don't know why that scenario just popped into my head, but I thought it was interesting to think about.
Look, it might be premonitory. You may have read the future in that. You know, so I mean, I'll leave it up to chance. We may find out. Qirn here checking the Magic Batcave. Coming up empty for now. Probably wants to have had the Titan's Myths to do that, but you know, you can't really help that.
Alright. Swamp Palace for Chirality. 6 items, one of which could easily be the Titan's Myth.
Yeah, and if this ends up being a dud, Qirn will have an opportunity to kind of close the gap a little bit. You know, Swamp Palace is a seemingly likely play. After all, we have just acquired all the components to get in here. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily where it's going to be. There are still some remaining outstanding locations. Although not many. The Eastern Palace, kind of the one remaining one that I can think of. And it's interesting because Chirality did not have the opportunity to use a mirror portal immediately after Palace of Darkness. Qirn's going to go right to Eastern Palace, so this might be him potentially reading into the likely scenario here. Obviously, Qirn doesn't know what Chirality's done in terms of getting that mirror, but this seems to me like, you know, playing against what you expect your opponent to do.
So Eastern Palace, Swamp, Spike Cave, like I was talking about a little while ago.
Oh no.
That's also there. K45, I don't think we saw.
Dr. Bob-tastic, you're supposed to be a doctor. I'm not supposed to be feeling pain from your suggestions.
What if I'm a doctor of dental surgery?
I'm supposed to be under for this.
Now I'm thinking of Little Shop of Horrors. Anyway.
We might prefer to be on the nitrous for what's remaining ahead of us. Chirality going to go straight to Argus here, which makes a lot of sense in an Ambrosia Seed. You know, the typical left-back gambit, not really as relevant.
Doctor of Thugonomics? I should have majored in Thugonomics.
With a minor in Street.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm more of a vert skater myself, but moving on. Qirn here has boss fight ahead. Chirality, a handful of checks plus Argus. This is really narrowing down here. Of course, some people would consider taking that big key and heading back, but since we know there's going to be something on Argus, no point in doing that. You're probably coming back in either way.
Alright, Qirn setting up for the... Oh, there it is.
And that's everything Chirality needs. Heading back to Argus, this will be go mode for Chirality at 1 hour and 4 minutes and about 40-something seconds. That's huge.
When's the last time you were in go mode with 7 hearts?
Honestly, sometimes I wonder when was the last time I was in go mode.
Good question. Yeah, fair enough. It's in their vanilla location. I like it. I mean, it's not, but it's close enough. I've seen the mitts there way too many times.
At this point, what even is randomized? Chirality, though, ready to put the team on the back, so to speak. Yoshi's on skis, all downhill from here. Will be slaloming his way through the remaining bosses, but this is very straightforward. We got Eastern, Hera, and GT. Whereas Qirn, if he doesn't go to Swamp following this, will have a lot of trouble trying to catch back up here.
And I don't see our runners going terribly out of their way to, you know, finish things that they don't need to here. Everybody's got gold swords, silvers, and blue mail. I mean, what else do you want?
Not a whole lot else. Although to address a quick question in chat, why Kira doesn't have silvers checked or showing, it's because we swapped to regular arrows to try and do the splash delete. Qirn actually has regular arrows out right now because we don't have the silvers just yet from later in this dungeon.
Chirality might switch to silver arrows later on in this dungeon, maybe to fight Armos.
The way I look at it is if you have the presence of mind to switch to regular arrows to do something, you're probably going to remember to switch back to silvers when you need them. Well, with such a fast go mode, this could end up being a very fast race for both of these two. All things considered, Qirn really not that far behind. With Palace of Darkness to complete here, and then Swamp, it's probably a fair amount slower compared to going up to the tower for Tower of Hera and going right into the dungeon for GT, but I mean, they are relatively close, all things considered, for the early game. I would like to take this opportunity to encourage everybody here in chat who is watching this race. These two are putting on a fantastic show, lots of awesome knowledge on display. And these two are always talking about this stuff and doing these things. Check them out on their actual Twitch channels. I'm sure you'll find something entertaining from these two. I did see some folks commenting about Qirn's attempt at a bomb jump there for that pit in the wait, what's the name of that room in Palace of Darkness with the beetles?
It's called the arena, quote unquote.
You'll love it. That's a weird bomb jump, and that lineup doesn't behave, like that ledge doesn't behave the same way as all other ledges. South-facing ledges are weird.
Yeah, and I imagine it's not unlike the one in Spectacle Rock Cave. Probably doesn't allow you to do the snap lineup.
Yeah, a lot of collision in this game, not programmed in intuitive ways, let alone doors. That's a bug net from Eastern Palace's Armos Knights. Chirality on the board with 6 crystals, moving on to Tower of Hera, and then GT immediately after.
Yeah, so we're going to have a real short GT big key guessing game. My guess would be maybe we start it maybe a little before the 7th crystal happens. Just because, I mean, it's basically crystal, mirror, you're there.
Yeah. So we'll give it a minute here, but one thing I got to remark on, these two not working with much health. 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8 hearts. 7 and 7 hearts, respectively. You would think this is a 7-7 Ganon mode with crystals, but no, it's hearts.
Yeah. So I'd have been tempted if I were Chirality to go pick up like a couple more potions. things like that.
I'm actually kind of surprised he didn't. Qirn's still going after that bomb jump. I don't blame him. I mean, it's good time save if you can get it. Unfortunately, we'll have to bail from that to try and get the switch and go the long way around through the arena. But that'll be Helmasaur King here shortly for him.
Yeah, when
Super Bunny climb.
I think starting it when the when Chirality enters the Moldorm fight would be a good idea.
Sounds good. Getting bailed out with another heart here in Super Bunny Cave. Probably worth the time to check it at this point, as you're already heading up to the top of the mountain. You may be wondering, why in the Dark World? He's going to Tower of Hera. Well, we'll have an easy way to get into GT thanks to this.
Yeah. Usually I'd go through Paradox Cave and then just take the portal on top of Turtle Rock. But, I mean, it depends on really how comfortable you are with each one and which one ends up being faster for you. I think it's way faster with the boots to do it that way, but to do it the way Chirality did it here might be faster without the boots.
Yeah, I think just because you get some of the advantage of the hook shot, trying to traverse that to those blocks, so that makes a lot of sense there. Looks like we're going to get a hair pot from Chirality, so if he can get this in one try bootsless, then this will be a significant time save, like a minute or two potentially. And the bomb's lined up correctly. Can Chirality get the right setup to get the knockback to clip him 1 pixel into the... wow, pull it off in one go.
Well done.
That's a deceptively... Oh, we should probably start that game. So, 22 locations in Gan's Tower. Get your guesses in as where you think it's going to be. The big key. 22 locations, you can find it in. We'll base it off of where Chirality is and how long it takes for him to find it. I'm assuming, Bob, that you have a specific check that we always prefer to see from your guess.
Well, I do have a contractually obligated guess of Bob's chest. As far as the number goes, I won't even put in a number. I'm on hosting duty. I'm not gonna mess with that. But
well, I got
for Chirality, he does get an 8th heart. Look at that.
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit more health to work with. I got sniped on my guess, so it's going to be 13 today. As we enter the tower, get your last couple guesses in if you'd like to. This is shaping up to be an incredibly fast finish. And Qirn, with a go mode swamp, because it's not entirely go mode, but he will find his Titan's Mitts on the way to the boss, should have a pretty fast time as well.
All right, checking the left side first. Cape on the torch, so yeah, not terribly required today. Qirn is going for Hype Cave, getting the silvers.
I do like the choice to go left here in GT first, just because you don't know about where those boots are, and that could be something that informs the rest of your GT routing. Well, 5 checks in, no big key, but several small keys. Looks like Qirn's going to make the decision to head into Swamp, which is good news for him. Whether or not this will be enough depends on just how crazy the rest of this GT is, but it would take a lot at this point.
Alright, we got a Quake Medallion and a small key in the 2 Hope Room chests here. And with as many keys as we've found, I believe that does put make Tile Room a viable possibility.
Yeah, still lots of possibilities here in Gan's Tower, and this is really the thing that would be biggest for Qirn, because it does take some time to get all the way to Argus. I don't know how much more he'll check. He may end up doing left side even, so enough weird things going on with GT, or potentially even Ganon, could be enough for Qirn to close this gap. But I would say that this is definitely Chirality's race to lose. We're already in GT.
I believe it's a small key in vanilla for Tile Room as well.
Did we just get every increment of numbered rupee counts in that compass room?
I mean, I don't think there was a blue one.
Oh, I'm talking about
But,
the ones
yeah.
that have numbers in their actual sprite.
Oh, did we have the 100 in there?
Yeah, we saw 350 and 100. I'm like, what?
Nice. Very nice. I mean, there is a mode in which you would see a 20, but it's not this one.
Yeah, so not quite, but close. Chirality having to double back to the left side here will be almost assuredly finding that big key in this route. Of course, you did mention Tile Room, and that is still on the table.
There is exactly one 100 in the game, and it's usually in the very first chest of Eastern Palace.
Yep, that is correct. Oftentimes, a 100 you would pick up if you're going to go for really early bottles in an energy run. Or if you're allergic to the back of Sahazula's hut. Or both. You could do both. I did at one point. Alright, good news for Qirn. Not going to spend any time in the west half of Swamp Palace today, as we already know left side's going to be completely irrelevant. So Qirn saving a little bit of potential time, not over Chirality's route, but over potentially himself.
Alright, we know the big key was going to be in there after finding that small key, and there are the boots right next to the big key!
Look, it might not have been the compass room, like you said, but I'm pretty sure this scenario was foretold. And you know, Bob, I think we had the right idea.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I believe our tracker here, Antisim, I apologize if I messed that up, getting the key guess of 15 recorded for us. Thank you for tracking as well today, keeping us on the up and up. Congratulations to Nuestria for correctly guessing where that is, and that's go mode for Qirn at 1 hour 16:55. So Chirality about to enter into the gauntlet at the same time in a commanding position to win this race. Bob, your guess was pretty close, all things considered, even though it wasn't, I mean, traditionally 14 is where you would find that, right?
Right, yeah. And then, of course, yeah, in this case it would have been 18 if they'd have gone all the way to Bob's chest, but you know what? I'm good either way.
Well, I'm glad I got you on the call, because I'm not good at math. I make calculated decisions in any way, but an actual doctor, you're making a big difference in that respect.
Well, I mean, I make calculated decisions too, but sometimes my calculations are incorrect. Chirality is on a heart and a half here in the gauntlet, and also apparently on quarter heartbeats.
Yeah, staying alert, keeping things from getting too distracting. But this is a very scary gauntlet to be fighting through. We'll end up taking the red potion heal here to try and be safe. That will make things a little more difficult when we get to the Ganon fight. With gold silvers, it should be okay, but I mean, blue mail doesn't make you invincible.
Yeah, taking a hug from Ganon with blue mail, I believe, would still deal 6 hearts of damage.
Alright, enough magic to spare for the torches later. Chirality getting through there, and Qirn moving on to the Ganon's Tower climb himself, as there are no remaining crystals. Amazing that we didn't touch Ice Palace, Misery Mire, or Turtle Rock at all in this scene.
Yeah, I cannot remember the last time I had a seed where I could avoid all of those dungeons.
Swamp Palace is just a straight shot to the back. I mean, this is amazing.
I believe we have a term for those seeds.
It's not a bird.
Yeah, I think they're airplane seeds.
A jet fighter. Yeah. A stealth bomber of a seed. It looked like it was awful to start. Ended up being under the radar.
There you go.
Chirality moving on to the mini Helmosaurus here. Has 2 bombs to work, or sorry, 2 keys to work with, so is not going to stop for anything, let alone a kill. Will be able to powder if he wants to. Has a bug net to capture a fairy if desired, but will opt to just simply nope the heck past that and move on to the Ganon fight. I wonder if this is a sign that Chirality feels like he's about to see a dot done.
Yeah, I mean, with that sort of thing going on, and knowing that your opponent is known for ridiculous shenanigans with glitches, and seeing that mirror figuring your opponent got it like years ago, you gotta be feeling behind.
And it ended up working out in Chirality's favor. Qirn ended up going after a very difficult, obscure method of getting it, and that's not the sum difference of the time between these two. Other decisions were at play, of course, but it ended up working out for Chirality. Conventional play ended up paying off. I mean, he ended up going for the splash lead anyway, too, but 1 attempt versus 3.
Oh
no!
Robbed on the Aga fight there.
A situation where the early warp of the first Aghanim really messes with the other twos. This desync is a really big pain. The only way you can really fix it is to delay your shot from the first one. You have to stand further away and try and get the other ones to get on screen before you end up going back at them.
Alright, there we go. Chirality finishing off Aga 2 and deciding, or not really deciding, just going straight to the Ganon fight.
Alrighty, that is Ganon here. First phase for Chirality as Qirn moves back towards the left side to go get that big key as we saw in chest number 15. 6 slashes for the first 2 phases. Chirality in the commanding position to take down Ganon without any real concern. But Fire Bat's potentially his nemesis. That would be one thing that could throw him off this finish.
Alright, dodging the Fire Bats with ease.
Interesting. So Qirn gonna find his big key a little bit faster than Chirality did by going full left.
Well, he's already gone full right.
Okay, yeah, I missed that. Commentators totally never look away at any point. So Chirality in position to get these last couple of arrows in. Actually, I think he got a silverless slash there.
Sure did.
For reference, that's a 2-frame window, but that's 4 silvers into him. That'll be enough for Chirality to win this race, to take the first of this matchup between these two teams, Yoshi's on Skis and Old Swagga Jackson, bringing total points for the team at parity, 6 each.
Yeah, well done, and congratulations to you, I guess.
You'll love to see it.
And I think your third team member was also in the chat there.
Oh yeah, Dory's out there. Dizelshaft, who will actually be racing tomorrow to finish out the week. This is going to be really exciting. This is actually a return for her, so we've been really amped up about this. Chirality obviously practicing his butt off for this. He will finish with an official SRL time in first place at 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 12 seconds. I believe we are joined by Kira. GG.
Hi, dark variables are stupid.
So that's what happened with the delay.
I was so upset because I realized what was going wrong like 30 seconds later. I was like, oh my god, I just lost the race to that because this race just plays itself apparently. Yeah,
I think
that was super
really interested to watch this back.
Where did Qirn go wrong? Because
Well, the unfortunate thing is he actually tried to do the fairy revival version of that skip early on and actually messed it up. Ran out of bombs, went back to do it again, didn't have enough damage, messed that up, did some more, like, ended up doing it 3 times before getting it.
He did pull it off on his 3rd attempt, but like between not having enough damage, between not having enough bombs, and also exiting Paradox Cave, Waterfall Cave after having taken damage, which messed up his water walk. All kinds of things in that specific sequence really threw him off.
Oh dear. And it turned out that the mirror wasn't really useful. Like, I really wanted to be able to route Pod in Eastern faster. That's why I wanted to actually go grab it at that point. And I got the boomerang, I got the Pod had the, not Pod, Thieves Town had the Splash Delete starter kit for everyone, basically, with the bow and the red boomerang. But yeah, I really wanted to route these dungeons together, and after that I was thinking, okay, I just need mitts, and I need, well, the flippers. That's all I need. So depending on which one I find, that mirror may potentially lead to absolutely nothing, except the crystal clear. So at the end I was thinking, okay, like, maybe messing up isn't that bad, we'll just have to wait and see. But I was so tilted of taking that waste of time, basically trying to get the mirror, that I was trying to look for angles to actually like skip stuff and gain time. So that's why I basically skipped the Dark Maze and Big Chest and Pod, because at that point, when you know your myths are go mode, you don't have that many corners left to skip. So you need to find some creative stuff to try to skip, and I think that everyone knows that the myth's always in swamp, so I went straight to swamp.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I mean, the interesting thing about all this is that between all these things, I mean, the two of you, even though Qirn did go back for that mirror relatively early, didn't really get a lot of use out of it. We saw a graveyard ledge from him, a K45. Beyond that, really barely anything. I think he got some use out of it in Desert, but the Pod Eastern thing was really the only time save that I would say Qirn got from it, and it may have been negated from those other checks.
That mirror was a huge bait. The only purpose was to get the final Gumod item and 1 crystal. That's it. So if you did a lot of mirror checks, then it feels bad. Yeah. So in that sense, I lucked out that he took a lot of time to actually get it, and then turned out to not pay off. Because well, when I finished and I opened the stream, I saw that he was clearing swamp as his last crystal. So he didn't even get the benefit from like early mids. And I think that if he even got early mids, that would have been a disaster for him if he wasn't go mode, because then he might have gotten into Ice Badass Maro TR for like 1 item that he skipped. I wouldn't know which item would be, because they were all pretty much in crystal dungeons, but yeah.
Yeah, neither of you guys even touched any of those. That was completely off the table, which is a really nice thing to watch in a race. It allowed both of you to do pretty straightforward routing. I mean, your overworld routes and progressions ended up being basically identical otherwise.
Well,
yeah, I don't think there was
super
really
straightforward. Sorry.
I don't think there was a way to get baited into any of the pendant dungeons. Like, just thinking about it, I don't think there's a way.
Was there an overworld item that was potentially skippable? I can't even think that, because like everything were in crystal dungeons almost, or in the locations like Paradox.
Catfish?
I didn't do catfish.
That is something we didn't see, so I'm assuming because of the mirror location, there was no like smart and convenient way to do that, and it ended up not being important.
The moment to do it was after killing Aga1 immediately. After that, you kind of forget about it forever.
Well, I gotta say, as a fellow representative of Yoshizan skis, I'm a big fan of this performance today, Chirality. I mean, I tried to be as even-keeled as possible, but you did give us a really excellent show to work with. And despite what probably felt comfortable early in the race, I did think you had a pretty commanding presence throughout the rest of it. I mean, execution went well. I was very interested to see that you dropped fairies early in the race, and I wanted to ask about that.
Okay, so oh, okay, I just saw Qirn die. That's unfortunate. Oh, fairies. Nice. Yeah. Okay, so back to the fairies. So one fairy can be useful. Usually I pretty rarely die to bosses, and that's kind of the only time that I really want fairies, because I don't know I don't know how to do the hover to ease that mountain with the fairy death and all that. All these weird stuff with fairy applications, I don't know that. So to me, a fairy is just to revive, and typically I'm pretty good at staying alive. So I don't really want them, and more often than not, every seed I'm going to do some death warps. So I don't want my fairies. I want to find a moment to actually get rid of them. So I wanted to drop that fairy to pick it up so I have full HP, so when I do Minimal Cave I have sword lasers, and then it's super quick to do. And then I touch a crab, so I was really sad. But yeah, that's basically like a creative, actually useful way to get rid of my fairy while also gaining time somehow.
Well, that's an interesting strategic element, and I'll look to maybe consider using that myself. This was a very health-starved seed. The two of you finishing with 8 hearts at your disposal and blue mail. So very impressed with overall the performance between the two of you. A lot of gold sword fights, by the way, and no bonks. Fantasy owners everywhere cringing a little bit at the sword versus bonk disparity, I think.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to give decent fantasy points, but yeah, I wasn't exactly looking for that.
Hey, we love talking about it. 121 item collection rate, quite a fast seed. And we'll actually see Qirn here finishing up 2 silver arrows separating him from the end of his race. And that is the final arrow for Qirn. Very close to dashing off that ledge. I was a little concerned about the Qirn, but looks like he will emerge victorious against Ganon here. So that'll be enough to close out the race for him as well. Going to finish with an official SRL time in second place of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 21 seconds.
Is everyone concerned about the Qirn? Sorry.
It was an unfortunate turn of events for Qirn, but we are joined by Qirn, actually. GG, I wanted to ask you about how you felt about all of the stuff that happened with the mirror. It looks like both of you guys had some feelings.
Oh my god, dude, I'm not even mad. Like, I was like, you know, to see the gap between me and Chirality, like, I know that, by the way, GG, Chirality.
Thank you.
Say that. But yeah, I was like, dude, I'm gonna lose to all this sloppy execution and stuff, and I was very sloppy execution, but I guess I probably had like 6 minutes of loss due to slop, 6 minutes of time loss. So like there was no way that I was gonna beat Chirality. I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch it back and see what the real difference is, because I know we're like 5 or 6 minutes of time losses for me. But I
thought it was very likely that you could beat me, like no problem. Like when I wasted 2 minutes, I only wasted 2 minutes on failing to get that mirror, and I already felt like I lost because the seed was too jet. So if you didn't do that and you just went where the items were, I had to find 2 minutes somewhere to gain.
Yeah, we both tried. Yeah, I think I heard them talking. I think I heard you guys talking about it. But yeah, for me it was like I went to go get it, and I'd set it up actually to get it. Oh my god, I'm just so pissed at the situation, because I'd set it up to get the Zora Ledge item with a Fairy Revive. Like, I took damage and everything, had 2 bombs, I was ready to go, and then Zora had an item. So I had to fake Flipper through Zora's domain all the way back to the Waterfall Fairy Cave in order to get my Water Walk state again, which was just such a pain. Then I failed it. Like, I failed it twice. Like, I know that, I don't know, I just failed it. And then I panicked because I failed it. And instead of like taking a second to collect myself and think and like, is it really necessary? Because I was just thinking my route, the optimal route, is to have had that mirror, go up to Death Mountain and check all the stuff. So instead of just taking a second and doing something else, I tried to go right back there, not thinking it's going to take me forever to get back, not thinking about like setting up the damage state. And I should have done what you did and bailed. So
at what time did you get the mirror? Was it like immediately early game before even Agawan?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, all I'd done is Salshore and Kakariko at that point when I got the mirror.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that changed everything.
When he finally got the mirror, he actually went up and checked went to Hera, right? Yeah. And then found the book later, and then went back up to check Ether Tablet, trying desperately to avoid the Aga 1 play.
Yeah, at that point, I knew I was like far behind. Like normally being behind in the early game does not matter. Like I think people take that too seriously, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really mean anything. But where we were and how far behind I knew I was very far behind. So I was like, I knew it was the wrong play to go to the Ether tablet, but I knew I had to gamble. I thought it was all Galaxy Brain by skipping Dark Maze, but it sounds like you did the same thing.
I skipped Dark Maze as well
Oh my
because the
God.
myths are always in swamp.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, Mitts are in swamp. Let's go there.
Turns out memes
Exactly.
aren't just dreams. Well, I will say though that the overall math, I think you might be playing this a little bit too hard on yourself, Qirn, because without that mirror, there's a lot of extra things that you wouldn't have had to do either. I mean, like Graveyard Ledge, you check K45, a couple of. I mean, the Hera play may have been more efficient without it. I would say that your execution is closer than you think. I mean, I think you're beating up on yourself a little too much here with your performance, because while it's unfortunate the way the mirror ended up turning out, I mean, this was a really entertaining, and even with the gap at the end conclusion of time, was a close-looking race throughout the entire race.
I would agree with Uday, since because I didn't have mirror, there's all these search guides in do. I didn't full clear Hera like you probably did. Like my Hera was basically it was my last crystal, then I carried the Pearl to Hera to mirror to just Hera bot, kill Moldorm, leave, and enter GT. So for me that was really quick. So all these things that you did extra, that's basically a lot of the time difference between us. So I think it was probably really close.
I'm not trying to beat up on myself, but honestly though, I missed the NMG bomb jump to the big chest in Tower of Hera and fell 2 floors. I missed the bomb jump to the ledge in the hub room and pod 3 times. There was just so many, there was easily minutes of slop. Plus, I mean, not even to mention, it sounds like we did the same slop there with trying and failing to get the mirror early. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to beat up on myself, but I'm just trying to be honest. I think it's good to be think about how much time you lost to stuff like that.
Hey, Qirn, I did want to ask you about the arena bomb jump in Palace of Darkness, because Dr. Bob and I were kind of talking about that ledge, and whether or not you can do the traditional setup for getting to that closest possible pixel. That's one of those ledges that doesn't work that way, isn't it?
I don't. You mean you're talking about the spin to get to the edge? Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't know because I'd never do the spin. I'm bad at it. But you do have to do. I think you do have to do a rail clip in order to set up there. So yeah, I wonder if that would mess that up.
It's just uncommon tech that I don't usually see myself. So I was really real curious about it. At the moment.
I didn't even know that bomb jump existed. So.
Yeah, I should have. It's so crazy. 6 small keys in the front of pod. I've never had.
Who does that?
It's such a weird
It
scene.
happens extremely rarely. I'd say that happens 2% of the time, something like that.
Mitts go mode, both runners skip left side pod. What even is this? Is this the real life? I'm not even mad, I'm a little frustrated that I played a little sloppy, but I'm not even mad at this loss. This is just such a weird game, and it was fun in a weird way.
And I was thinking, I saw the mirror, and personally I was thinking there is no way Qirn doesn't get that mirror as soon as possible. I was thinking it. Of all the people that would give you would. So
how did you end up sequence breaking it? Or how did you try to sequence break it?
I flew to 8, so my setup was bricked.
Yeah, we were going for a splash delete with bow and bombs.
My duck variable was wrong for it, and I didn't realize. I was like, why is it not working? What am I doing wrong? And I ran out of bombs, whatever. So I left, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to pod without the mirror. And while going to pod, I just realized, oh, that's why it's not working. I never had a problem in the race context before. And then I was really upset.
What items were you trying to splash delete with?
Bow and bombs.
Oh yeah, I think you can reset it with bow, but I'm not sure exactly what you do. You fire
I didn't learn yet.
or something.
Well, I figured you guys might be the right people to ask about this. Can't you just use the flute to reset the variable, even though it doesn't work? The bird doesn't get summoned in Zora's domain, but doesn't that reset the variable?
I'm not a specialist on slash delete. I can't really answer that question. And also, I think I used the flute enough time that race.
Yeah, a little bit.
When you watch this back, Qirn, you'll enjoy the Aga Tower.
Okay.
So Qirn has exactly 5/6 cubed of a collection rate.
Wow.
I
That's
think
a fast
beautiful.
map.
Are you a doctor of math, Dr. Bob?
Computer science, close enough.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Kira and I are working on, the rest of the schedule for our team for the remaining weeks. But Qirn, are there any particular weeks coming up that we expect to see you racing in? Or even if we don't know yet, are there any weeks you're really looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to being the one writing the spoiler log in both of the spoiler races. I think that'll be a lot of fun. That and I don't even remember what all races I'm signed up for, but there's a few. I think it's just the co-ops. The co-ops are the other ones, yeah.
As I understand it, you say you're going to be the one who's going to be the pilot for those?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's exciting. I mean, you got a good voice for it. Obviously you're a commentary guy. We hail back to the main tournament. So, and that's the thing is normally I'm asking people in these interviews, hey, have you been practicing pilot week? And it sounds like you have been.
Oh yeah, well at least Walter and I actually haven't practiced at all with Mark. I mean we're ready to go, so watch out, opposing team, whoever that happens to be that week.
I'm so glad we have you in Ambrosia week and not in. Well, so Kira and I tried one, and then I'll be honest with you, I overtalked. So for those of you out there, looking forward to your weeks for pilot, that is definitely the big thing. Maybe use push to talk. I found that to be the biggest takeaway.
Oh yeah, like I was so overwhelmed the first time we did it. It was just, well, Uday was speaking like out loud of everything he was reading. So it's like, okay, this location is there. This is nothing. This is nothing. Oh, this is important. Oh, this is nothing. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to execute with lower sources. I'm just like, my brain can't process where I'm going anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to for the edification of our viewers and perhaps myself, the spoiler log week, the way that's going to work is basically you get the spoiler and go at the same time, right?
Yes,
it's not like a normal spoiler log race where you get like 15 minutes beforehand to plan the route. It's like, no, your pilot has to run you around on the fly.
Not only do you have 0 prep time, but it's key sanity, so there is even more relevant items to find and parse in the log to route.
Yeah, so that'll be a really interesting thing to see unfold. One thing that I think we can take away from this race today is that the two of you are pretty good at low health execution. I mean, I know that you guys were knocking yourselves for some situations you're in, but let's be real, 8 hearts for Ganon, even Blue Mail, that's not a comfortable place to be in. So, I mean, I think the two of you are very well set up for running the actual spoiler week. I hope to be a pilot myself, because this looks scary.
My approach to all these seeds and all these races is no risk, no reward. So I always push myself like, oh, I have half a heart, whatever, I need to go forward. But I basically try to plan a relative amount of safeties. So like, even if I end up being low HP, I know I have a safety net. So like, just one bed potion or fairy, something like that, then I can push. But yeah, like, it's very nerve-wracking when you know you have no safeties, and it affects how you play, and that leads to mistakes.
All right, well, we have spoke at length about the remaining weeks ahead. We do probably want to clear out of the way for other races coming up. We do have another one on this channel, actually, in about 20 minutes. Team We're Bad at Names, represented by Clifford, against Philion of the Missing Links, which would be a really exciting match, and that'll be really good. There's also the ALTTPR League and the ALTTPR League 2 with matches that start at 9:10. So a lot of action ahead of us. Before we close out, any remaining thoughts on the seed, starting with you, Qirn?
Oh no, that was just I want a salty run back, Kira. But yeah, GG's.
We'll schedule something sometime. I'm always going to be happy to racing you on whatever. So just hit me up sometime. We'll
Awesome.
have a run back.
Sounds good.
I love the sound of that. Well, lots of randomizer action ahead of you here in the Link to the Past Randomizer League. Follow all these channels, but follow these two runners. These two are obviously going to be racing again at some point. And if you thought this was just a taste of what's to come. I'm sure there is plenty more awesome action, whether these two are racing each other or others. So check out them on their Twitch channels. We also want to shout out our tracker today, and please correct me if I'm wrong with this, Anti-Sim. You were keeping us on the up and up with all of the rapid progression that we saw throughout this race, and a big shout outs and thanks for keeping us that way. As well as a big thanks to Dr. Bobtastic for joining me on the mic on relatively short notice.
Yo. I'm not gonna lie, I saw your name on the list. I was like, I need to come with that guy again.
Has been since SG Live. It was a really good time. I think you two are gonna.
I mean,
really
we
enjoy
needed like epic level beard power here anyway, right?
Like this ain't Pure Force 1. I'm not flying any planes. I'm just going downhill on a set of skis.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I've been Dr. Bobtastic, and I'll let you have the last word. You die.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. I've been Eudaimonistic, Chirality, Qirn. Another match tomorrow between, actually, is it Giselle Schaft and
Walter.
Yes, Giselle Schaft and Walter tomorrow coming up. So if you want to see the remaining match of this team set up, they'll be at 2:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SG Main. Otherwise, that's it for us today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.